Hello, I am Nicholas Goen from NG Online. I'm a media specialist there. Today I'm going to show you how to set the action on your guitar and set the intonation on your guitar. Action is literally just how far off the fretboard your strings are. And intonation is how in tune your guitar is all the way down the fretboard. Sometimes when you get these really cheap guitars like this one, the intonation is really bad. When you start playing down here at the 12, you can sometimes be a half step or even a whole step off. It gets pretty bad. Setting the intonation and the action is a really cheap way or free way to make your guitar a lot better. Makes it play a lot easier, makes it more fun to play, tears up your fingers less, and everybody wants that, right? So let's start with the action. You have to start with the action because once you set the action, it will throw off your intonation. So what you need for the action is you need a hex key. These are very small, very inexpensive, but usually specialty. You can't usually get them at Lowe's. Sometimes you can find them there, but you'll usually have to go to like a guitar store or Grizzly, a place like that, in order to get one. And it's just a hex key. When you go to get one, make sure you bring your guitar with you because they vary by guitar. So they'll have to actually test your guitar to tell you what size you need. But all you're doing when you set the action is you're lowering your bridge. Something to be aware of is you got to look up here at the top of your neck, look how far off your strings are from your fretboard. And then come down here to the 12, look at the 12, and you don't want to go lower than what it is up here. If you go lower than that, when you get way up here, it'll start buzzing because it'll be touching your fretboard. And also, pay attention to the fact that your strings are not flat. There's a little bit of a curve across the fretboard, and you want to keep that curve because once again it'll lower it too low in the middle, and when you press down on some of those strings you'll get a buzz. So all you got to do is you got to take your hex key and you got to put it inside your bridge, and you just twist it to lower it down. You just want to twist it down until you get all the way down. On these cheaper bridges, these standard style Fender bridges, you have two little screws that you have to lower all the way down. When you get into some of the more expensive bridges, when you're talking about full contact bridges, usually the way that those work is with each saddle there is one that you lower with and then the other one tightens it to make sure that it doesn't come out of action while you're playing. And with Gibson bridges, the way it usually works is you have two big screws on both sides, and all you gotta do is screw both of those in more. And it just lowers your whole bridge. Those are really easy to do action on. Something to keep in mind is once you lower your action really low, some of these really cheap guitars, the way that they're built, the pickups will be up too high. If it's touching your strings or they're very close to your strings, then you need to lower them. All you gotta do is you gotta take a screwdriver, you just put it inside that little screw right there on both sides of the pickup, and lower them down. You don't want to lower them down to where they're indented from the guitar, but they can be pretty close to being flat with the guitar and it'll be okay. And all you really got to do with that to test that, you don't have to measure it or anything, just plug your guitar in and switch between your pickups to make sure that they're all equal in volume. That's really all it takes for that. After you get your action set, you need to set your intonation. The way that intonation works is there's this really complicated math equation that they use to set all of your individual frets. Even on the really cheap guitars, the math equation is sound usually. So usually you won't have to replace your neck, just setting your intonation will do the job. The way intonation works is there's a lot of math that's involved inside of setting all your individual fret locations. And it can all be messed up if your bridge is too close or too far away from the fretboard. So what you got to do is you got to go through each one of these individual saddles again and push them closer to the fretboard or pull them away from the fretboard in order to decrease or increase your scale length. So what you want to do is you want to have a tuner, a digital tuner in this situation, and it needs to be a really fine tuner. It needs to be really precise. I usually use this one because it uses the vibrations of the guitar rather than actually using the sound of guitar, which I think is really cool. and it's just a really precise tuner. I have a pedal that I will use sometimes because it's a really precise tuner. A lot of the really cheap box tuners that we get with our guitars whenever we buy an electric guitar, those are not real great. You can use them just for a basic intonation, but I don't suggest using them to intonize a lot of people's guitars because it's just not going to get the quality that people are looking for. But all you got to do is you start by striking a string, making sure that it's in tune. I'm starting with my first string, my high E, striking it, and it's perfectly in tune. So I come up here to the 12, hold down the 12. Now you got to remember, you just now lowered your action pretty far, possibly. It's going to take a lower amount of pressure now to achieve the same goal that you used to. If you push down really hard on that string, it's going to force your string to be sharp. You just got to put a little bit of pressure on it. You just want to achieve the goal. Just barely push down on that E and see if it's in tune. If it's not in tune, if it's sharp or if it's too high, you need to move that saddle away from the fretboard. So there's a little screw back here in the back that you want to put your screwdriver in, and you want to pull that saddle away from the fretboard. If it's too sharp or if it's too low, you want to push it away from the fretboard. So you want to screw that out so where it comes out a little bit. And once you get that set, you're ready. You're ready to play. You're ready to play some hard rock music if that's what you're into. If you're playing up there past the 12 or you're playing a lot of finger picking stuff, and you'll always be in tune. Thank you very much.